you that are joining the first meeting of the EGDC Phase 2 project. My name is Luis Neves. I'm the CEO of Jesse. Jesse, together with PricewaterhouseCoopers and the Carbon Trust, are the partners to run this project for the next 2 years. I would like to welcome all of you to this meeting. I think without further ado, I will hand over to Elias to give us a couple of welcome remarks, and then we will go to the agenda items. I would like to use the best possible the time. We have a big number of participants, and I would like also to at each session that we are going through that to give the time for you to ask questions and to discuss. Also, a word of thanks to our colleagues from PricewaterhouseCoopers and the Carbon Trust that put together with Andreas from Jesse, this session for you. So, Elias, handing over to you.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to everybody. We appreciate your time. We want to make sure that you actually understand the message of today and the overall message of the project. So please don't hesitate. We will have 3 Q&A breaks within that 1 hour. So don't hesitate to ask questions, but also don't hesitate to use chat if you want to ask something specific that I or other colleagues can reply in writing. So in one sentence, what is the Green Digital Coalition about? It is about proving the scientific way that digitalization can, and under which condition it can be beneficial, not only for the economic reasons that you're buying digital solution, but also for carbon climate benefits to get out of it. Hopefully in the future, we'll also show other environmental benefits out of it. So at the moment, we will focus more on carbon. So we want to show that you have both economic and climate benefits using digital. It's not obvious. That's why we have a method. The method is not easy to understand, and we'll have highlights of that. That's why one of the things of this second phase of the coalition will be to simplify and to make it useful to all of those that want, in every sector, that want to use digitalization also for sustainability benefit. One of the benefits of showing that you have also climate benefits is that you become eligible for sustainable finance, climate finance or green finance, whatever you call it, and that you are aligned with the EU taxonomy or whatever eligibility criteria your organization uses or your financial institution. That's why special welcome to the financial sector representatives, which we will entertain separately, and we will have a separate work stream also with them. And special thanks, of course, to the EGDC members themselves. This is the first meeting under the second secretariat of EGDC Coalition. And again, with EGDC members that are present here, please be aware that we will do a separate dedicated meeting to EGDC Coalition members, because we will give a special emphasis on their needs and their use cases, of course. So on my side, this is a quick welcome. Please don't hesitate to ask questions, and hopefully this will be of value to your organization. The value is not only monetary, it's also public, let's say, communication that you can use. If your use case that you will learn how to submit today is actually evaluated or treated, you can present it to your financial actors on different conferences, and including ours. We ourselves will be putting those cases on an international stage at the Commission events, at the COP events. So we are already planning to be at the COP 30 in Brazil this year, and the future COPs, and any other major events like Digital with Purpose or major digital summits that we organize as a Commission. So without saying more, let's keep it here so we get most of the value for you. Luis, I hand over, and wishing everybody a productive meeting.
Thank you so much, Elias. So thank you very much. So moving on to the next slide. I would like also to give an opportunity to present our partners. Many of you already know about Jesse. We are an industry organization. We have led the EGDC first phase, which was around the developing of the methodology that Elias already spoke about. I would like, to give the opportunity to Carbon Trust and PricewaterhouseCoopers also to say a few words, calling in Carbon Trust, Veronica or Felix.
Yes, Carbon Trust. Obviously.
We cannot hear you, Felix.
Okay, Veronica, can you? Sorry, is that better?
It's okay.
Great. Apologies. So the Carbon Trust is a consultancy that we have been supporting the transition to net zero for over 20 years. We work with governments, corporates and financial institutions to accelerate the transition to net zero. Our focus in this project has been a lot around the ICT and the enabling factors.
Thank you, Felix. Colleagues from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Daniela, Svetlina.
Yes, no, that would be me. Luis,
Okay.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. PwC is a global professional service providers. We're active in 151 countries, delivering to both public and private sector institutions a wide range of services. In this case specifically, since we have quite a lot of experience with regards to digitalization and supporting financial institutions and the public sector with sustainable finance matters, we will be working closely on the financial workstream.
Thank you so much, Giovanni. Just for you to know, we have supporting partners in the project. So Connect Europe, that previously was called EPNO, the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, the Urban Transitions Mission, the Alliance for AI IoT, and that's continuing innovation. And we have also a significant number of cities which are partnering in the project, along with financial institutions that Elias already mentioned about. So moving to the next slide, Andreas. So I would like to give an opportunity now to Andreas to give us a short overview of the first phase about the European Green Digital Coalition, mainly for those that are not so, identified with what we have done in the first phase. So Andreas, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Luis. So first of all, thank you everyone for taking the time to be here today. I'm sure that most of you are already aware of what the European Green Digital Coalition is, the EGDC. But for anyone who's not, the initiative was launched a number of years ago now in March 2021. It was initially launched with 26 CEOs with several different aims and intentions. As has already been sort of stated by Ilyas and Luis, one of the key aims of the EGDC was investing in the development and deployment of green digital solutions, and specifically ones that achieve a net positive impact. This is across a wide range of sectors, a wide range of key sectors, which we'll be going into further. But other aims that were also included were being able to measure that impact, so developing a methodology, and then also developing guidelines that help with the green digital transformation, again, underlined by the net carbon methodology that was developed. So in line with that, we had the EGDC phase 1. We're currently joined by 37 coalition members who have already signed the EGDC declaration. These organizations have committed to reducing their carbon handprint and improving their carbon footprint. Improving their carbon handprint and reducing their carbon footprint. We'll be working very closely with these organizations, as well as a number of different other partners, members, and other organizations such as yourselves, and we will be continuing forward with them. But now we should first look into what happened in phase 1 of the EGDC. So we developed a science-based methodology to estimate the net environmental impact across 6 different vertical industries. These include manufacturing, agriculture, smart cities, transportation, energy and power, and buildings and construction. From these, the main outcomes that we achieved in the EGDC Phase 1 was the Net Carbon Impact Assessment Methodology, also known as the NCM. This is the science-based methodology that is used to calculate that net positive impact of the given solutions. We produced case study calculators, which contributed to refining the methodology and provided a valuable testing ground for its initial formulation, and further as well, deployment guidelines that supported, again, the deployment of the digital solutions, and also to help minimize the negative impacts such as rebound effects. So now, as we move from Phase 1 to Phase 2, there are a number of different objectives that we're going to be aiming to achieve over the following 2 years or so. So the EGDC Phase 2 is set to run for 2 years, and the main objectives are as follows. So firstly, we're going to be working with interested parties in quantifying the climate impact of either deployed or yet to be deployed ICT solutions to measure the net positive impact of these solutions. Through this, we'll be also developing a repository of at least 50 case studies, which will include both the calculated and estimated impacts. Similarly, as Ilyas mentioned, one of the objectives of Phase 2 is to update and simplify the methodology. We are going to be exploring ways that we can reduce the burden of data collection, improve the existing tools, and make and simplify ways of being able to apply the actual methodology. Another objective, again, as has already been mentioned, is to work very closely with the finance sector. So we will be working closely with them to help facilitate sustainable finance, specifically in the digitalization of key sectors, and using the NCM as an opportunity to have a verified and certified net positive impact of solutions. And then finally, one of the other objectives is to have as wide as an adoption of possible of the methodology. In fact, it's going to be global this time round in Phase 2, and we're looking to involve stakeholders involved in the deployment of ICT solutions, involved in the digitalization of major sectors, and public and private actors, including financial and supporting in the digital solutions deployment. So, why will EGDC Phase 2 matter for your organization? I appreciate there's a lot of text here, and we should emphasize that this presentation will be shared with all of you. So please don't worry about having to take screenshots of all the different elements. But if we just were to go briefly over the main areas for each group, as you can see, for whether it's the suppliers, implementers, or financial institutions, each grouping will have a number of different key benefits that will derive. And in fact, many of these benefits will also apply across the different groups as well. But for suppliers, it is an opportunity to gain market differentiation, collaborate with implementers on scalable, trusted green digital initiatives. So opportunities for scaling. There are significant opportunities for partnership and marketing, both via the solutions themselves, and also later down the line, we will be hosting a number of different events where you can begin to showcase your case studies and the work that's being done. And it will also support the development of future solutions with future customers. For implementers, it is an opportunity to show proof of green commitments and quantify the impact of the solutions that are being used. It will also support the maximization of the impact of these planned solutions, and also support in streamlining any procurement or funding alignment, as again, you will have a certified and validated solution through the EGDC methodology. For financial institutions such as commercial banks, development banks, and multilateral leaders, this is also an opportunity to enhance image and reputation, specifically the commitment to sustainability, whilst also with clients, regulators, and investors. This will also be a chance to help to meet earmarked financial streams. Oftentimes there are spending conditions which have clear criteria. These can be aligned and be demonstrated through the NCM. And then finally as well, the net carbon methodology will also be aligned with the EU taxonomy. So again, it also helps with reporting burdens and obligations. Now, Before we move on to any further about how the case studies will be made, what the solutions will look like, and what phase 2 will matter in more depth, we wanted to take the opportunity to see if there were any questions before we move on to the next part, which will be slightly more technical in nature.
Well, thank you so much, Andreas. I think Andreas gave a very good overview of phase 1 as well as the objectives of phase 2. But as he said, time for a couple of questions. I already see someone, Dolphin, as a question. Please go ahead.
Thanks for allowing me to pose the question. You talk about 50 use cases. Suppose that with all the people around the table, there are more than 50 use cases coming in your direction. Which are the criteria you will use to select the 50 which will be the happy ones?
Very good. Any other question before I hand over to Andreas, Giovanni, or Elias?
Yeah.
No questions? Elias, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, let me just take it immediately. Dominic, thanks for participating. We expect a lot from you and from Brussels. There will be need for more than 200. So we need several hundred cases, because as you will see, first and outmost will be the quality of the data and completeness of the data. And people underestimate how much is needed for a use case to be a complete and quality data. So I am more afraid that we will not get enough good data rather than too many. And if we have too many, we will start and we will teach you to do it yourself with our double check later on. If needed, even after the end of the project, we'll see how to do it. So at the moment, we worry to ensure that we have enough of good quality, complete data sets. And Carbon Trust will be the ones that will actually do all the checking and ranking of the quality and completeness. So there will be no political things. Only if we have more than 50 that are equally top quality, we will then see that we go across the sectors. We have 7 sectors: energy, transport, construction, buildings, agriculture, smart cities. Smart cities are kind of even more equal, manufacturing, and healthcare. Then we may want to kind of spread around the sectors to make sure that we cover the sectors and geographies. Okay. But let us worry about it if we have all these data that we actually need.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Dolphin, just for you to know, in the first phase, we had a significant number of cases, over, I don't know, around 100, if I remember well, and very, very few were, let's say, ended over with good data quality that, supported the development of the methodology. I do not see any additional questions. So in that case, I would like to move to the next phase. Andreas?
Yes, this
Moving to
section
the
is
case
with me.
study,
So
it's around Felix and the Carbon Trust, right?
yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Right. Yeah, so exactly the topic we're going to talk about now is going to a bit more depth into the case studies and what will be necessary to partake and submit a case study, and to provide you a bit of background into what we're looking for. So as Elias said, we're looking for a minimum of 50 as an output, but really this takes several more as an input. So when we're doing a case study, we're looking to calculate the net carbon impact, so the overall reduction in emissions that occurs when the solution is implemented. And really here what we're trying to do is demonstrate the use of the EGDC methodology with as many real life solutions as possible. So we want to demonstrate this in as many different implementations, as many different solutions, and we also want to learn from these case studies how best the methodology can be implemented. So this will help us as well in our development. So we want solutions across all sectors. We have traditionally had the focus on the sectors that Elias has mentioned, so agriculture, construction, buildings, energy, power, healthcare, manufacturing, smart cities, and transport. But that doesn't limit you if you have a solution which is in a different sector. So if you've never come to a case study before, what it includes is we basically develop a calculator to measure the impact of the solution, and this considers a counterfactual reference scenario without the implementation, and then another scenario where we compare to it, where we look at the impact on emissions with the implementation of the solution. So the solutions we're looking for end-to-end digital solutions. Clearly, it must deliver emission savings, but the real focus here is on the whole solution, which we'll come to in a bit more. But again, there's a lot of different components to solutions, and we need to understand the overall impact. What we're not considering is emission savings by this solution being an improvement from a previous model. What we're really focused on this project is to demonstrate the impact that ICT can have against an alternative. So a good example of this is a case study from phase 1, which you can see there's a link to at the bottom, of the Schneider Electric High Performance Building Management System. So this shows how ICT can have an impact in saving emissions from the energy use of the building. So again, we want to encourage as many case studies to be submitted as possible. So what we want to do is accept solutions that have been implemented, as well as those that are yet to be implemented and are planned to be implemented in the future. So if it has been implemented, this will have a preference. We want to get as many real life scenarios calculated as possible, but we will also be able to support some number of pre-implementation solutions, as long as there's some data behind it from pilot testing or from lab testing, say. As well as implementation, we also are aware that there are other things that can be challenging. So you might be awaiting completion of the infrastructure project, or you might have uncertainty about your ability to support the resources of the case study, or about the timing that the data will be available. So we still want we encourage you to submit these solutions. But what we want to do is you to let us know during the submission about these dependencies so we can plan for them. Another really important point is that at phase 1, we did a lot of case studies. We spent a lot of time developing them and providing feedback. So we really encourage the resubmission of any EGC phase 1 case studies that were initiated or not completed. And in the hope that some of that development since we last discussed them has happened. So in terms of eligibility criteria, it's relatively limited. It has to be an ICT or digital solution. It has to enable emissions reductions. It must not cause any significant harm to other social or environmental ESG indicators. And it's not involved directly applied to the exploration, extraction, mining or production of for fossil fuels. So we've mentioned a bit about the data. So it's important that we have support to get this data. We must have support from both the solution developer and the implementer, particularly the implementer when they will be able to collect the data of the real world scenario. And it's really important that they're both involved for us to be able to get sufficient data of the implementation. So I'm going to pass over to Alex to carry on.
Thanks, Felix. Yeah, so addressing what we mean exactly by a solution. So a solution can be made up of lots of different technologies. And taking the example here, so this is an agri solution that monitors environmental factors to optimize the use of fertilizer and water. So as you can see, the solution's made up of lots of different technologies. So we've got the sensors, we've got the cloud, we've also got technology systems, communication systems. But what we're really looking at is the combined impact of all of these technologies, which makes up the solution. And the case study will focus on the solution as a whole as well. So a key point here is that the more far removed you are from the whole system implementation, the more challenging it will be to collect the necessary data and the more collaboration that will be required with different organizations. So what we would say is if you are the provider of a specific component to the solution and you're unsure whether or not you'd be able to support the whole case study, then please do reach out to us directly and we can discuss that further. So then this is another example from phase 1 of the project, which is the IBM Flex platform, which is an intelligent grid optimization solution. I won't go into the detail of this now, but this is really just to show you what is included within the case study. So all the different effects that are considered, and we'll go into a lot more detail about this in the next webinar, which will be the onboarding webinar for the case studies. So why should you take part? I think it's already been mentioned that there's lots of benefits to taking part, but a few key ones to mention again are access to free advisory support. So when you're developing the case studies with us, positive PR. So the case studies can be used externally to demonstrate your impact, both at EGDC events, international events that are attended by EGDC, and in your own marketing and communications. And as you can see here, this is a LinkedIn post from phase 1 that someone who was part of the project posted. And another couple of key benefits are access to capital, so securing that sustainable finance, and also growth opportunities by developing solutions that reduce emissions for your customers. So then looking at the overall journey for participating organisations, this is very much high level, so I won't go into the detail of everything now, but you can review this once we share the slides. But just at a high level, so we've got the project overview, which is the phase that we're in now. Then we've got a case study submission, so that will be the onboarding webinar that I mentioned. We'll have the case study evaluation, so that will be the case of reviewing all the case studies against the selection criteria and prioritising those. The case study development, which is really where we'll need the most collaboration from you, and I'll go into a bit more detail about that on the next slide. And then finally, that will be publishing the case study. So that phase is really about how we can help maximise your impact through sharing the case study. So then finally, looking at what the process will be like for developing a case study. So this will vary considerably between organisations. I think the main reason for that is data availability, which has already been mentioned, and also the maturity of the case study. So whether it's a new case study or one that's already been developed. But as a broad view, so we'll have the kickoff meeting where we'll assess what sort of data is available and what can be gathered. We'll then have the data collection phase, and we'll provide calls as and when is needed to support you with this and address any challenges or data concerns. And in terms of data, the data that you'll need to have is data on the footprint of the solution, and that can be either a full ACA or it can be high-level estimates. And then also we'll need the data on the emissions reductions or resource savings after the solution has been implemented. Then we'll move into the case study calculation and methodology development, and that will, again, it will vary between organisations, but in some instances it will largely own that process, but we might ask for some support from you in some instances. Then we'll have the case study review meeting, followed by the review by the consortium and advisory board, and then finally it will be the communication of the case study. And then I think I'm handing over to Giovanni.
Well, before Giovanni jumps in, any questions on this second part of the webinar from your side? Dominic, please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Dominic, or my first name, so no problem. I have a question about the type of case study. So the case study you presented in the previous slides about the Schneider management system, it's very clear what this is as an example. But I will also want to present a possible use case, and I would have your opinion about this one. So the city of Brussels developed in the last years a very big citizen portal, so that the citizen can ask a lot of documents documents in an electronic way. So this is a huge IT solution, and the positive impact is that, for example, 100,000 citizens during 1 year don't have to come once or twice during the year to the building of the city administration to ask something or to get something. So the transport needed for them to go to the building and back to their home is in a certain way an interesting diminution of the CO2 emission. Could this be a use case, or do people from Carbon Trust say we don't have data about this? This is not what we want. The boundaries of the system must be much more clear. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dominique.
That's a great question. I think it's a good way to demonstrate what the different types of data can be. So yes, with that first answer is yes, that is an applicable use case. We don't have to have primary data on every single element. We can also do research and into travel patterns, for example, and understand if we've got a specific region, we could particularly use Brussels or European travel data, for example. So not all of the data has to be primary. What we would look to gather from you is understanding the impact of like the emissions that were generated in implementing the solution. The technical layers, the technologies involved, and if you had any data you collected during the development of the solution in understanding how this could impact travel patterns. You might have done research, for example, to understand the impact it would have. So that's the sort of data we'd be looking for, but a great example.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Aries, you have a question?
Yes. Can
Please
you?
go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Many thanks for this webinar, and especially for the last slide that presented the timeline of the whole process. That is very beneficial. So I'm a supplier of an ICT solution, let's say, and frankly, I must say that sometimes, depending on the people that I talk to, I might deliberately overestimate the benefits that the technical solution provides. So in such conversations, I think in order to be as much objective as we can, because this is exactly what we miss as suppliers, an objective way of judging, let's say, evaluating our footprint. How do you consider the inclusion of a customer in such meetings? Is this required? Is this optional? So someone that has adopted the ICT solution that we're talking about, we are submitting. Thanks.
Felix, would you like to jump?
Yeah. Well, we would like to get data. I mean, going back to the previous example, actually might be useful, is we can use average data of travel patterns if it's specific about the Belgian region or something, but ideally we would get data from the customers and the people traveling. Now, if this could be a sample survey or some other research that was done. So I think it's important that whatever your solution is, you can engage with whoever is sort of benefiting or using the solution. If we rely solely on the information from the supplier, as you say, it's not necessarily representative of how that solution is implemented in the real world. So we think it is important. Every solution is different. Some solutions are much further removed from customers than others, but the main focus is to try and get as much data, quality data we can about the implementation.
Hey, Aries, is that clear to you?
So I understand that the inclusion of a stakeholder, a customer, is not a prerequisite, let's say, or it doesn't add to the credibility of the submitted ICT solution. It has no benefit. No, I mean it has no impact, let's say.
No, it would. Sorry, inclusion of a customer would be beneficial. So we could collect that data of the how it is implemented in the real world.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. I have René Manon. and then Julia from GIZ. So please ask your questions, and then Felix, I will come back to you on the two of them.
Okay, hi, thank you. I'm Manon from the City of Brussels as well. I work with Dominique, and so I had more practical questions related to that. If we want to participate to this tender, we actually need to have more information about the program itself. Like I saw a file about the tender, but no information about any budgets and how much the city would need to pay to participate to this tender for travels and so on. So that was the first question, if you have a link to that program and to the more information about the budget. And then another question was, if we submit, for instance, the solution that Dominique explained about this citizen platform, can we submit it alone, or do we need to create a mini consortium within this consortium? So are already in contact with other cities or with tech suppliers and so on. And then another question was that I saw that tenders needed to already have 3 similar projects done. And what if this is kind of the first big project we're working on, where we have data and so on that we can provide? Are we as a city considered as a tender, or is that again part of the consortium? And then my last question was, we were asked to send a signed letter of interest. By when do we need to submit it?
Okay, maybe I will take the tender question. Well, first of all, so GST, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and the Carbon Trust, we are the ones that got already the financial support from the European Commission to run this project. So you don't need to be part of any tender. What we have asked you through the letter of support is that you commit the City of Brussels, to engage in the process, to bring a solution if you have one, and to collaborate with us in analyzing your solution, which is relevant to your city. In terms of costs, there are no particular costs, so you will be engaged. If there is, a meeting or a specific meeting in Brussels, which probably will be most of the meetings taking place in Brussels, then you can participate without any major challenge, I guess. So the cost question, I don't think it's an issue. For the second part, I will leave Felix to reply.
Sorry, could you repeat the second part? Sorry, just briefly.
I just one more question about the budget. How much time in total is it considered that maybe an IT person or so works on it, because we need to pay them to provide the data and so on to gather it? So was that also taken into account, or is it just we work on it and then we get the analyze from your side?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I remember there was the other question was about, do you need a consortium? So
Yeah.
in terms of your own resources to provide data for the case study, that is something that you would have to fund yourself. That's not funded, I understand, from us. So that would be, your own internal resources. The amount of time that takes, that would require, is it's really dependent on the kind of data that we need to collect. So I think at this point, we'd suggest we go through the case study selection, and we have an initial call to understand what data would be needed before you go and start investing. If you haven't collected the data yet, before you go and start investing resources to do so, where at least we can help guide the kind of data that you would need to collect, and you'll then understand the cost. The second part you asked was about if you need a consortium. So yes, not every solution is going to need a consortium. It does depend on your role, but if you have a technology supplier who has the details of the solution, the impact, the footprint, say, of the solution, and whoever can collect data on the impact that the solution is having, that would be the ideal consortium. Is whoever can collect those two elements of data, the footprint and the impact.
Okay, so we need to speed up a little bit, so I'll give the floor to Julie Fink now for your question.
Yeah, thank you. It's a short question. We are considering submitting a use case from Senegal, and I was wondering when the data collection phase will take place, as we are still in development of this use case, and try to fit it or see if it fits.
Yeah, well, it's a 2-year project, so we're going to be staggering use cases throughout the 2 years. So we'll, I mean, if it's going to be completed and developed in the next year, then we can start looking at doing the case study in 2026. If it's going to be completed at the end of 2026, then that would be too late.
Okay, Stuart?
Yeah, thank you. Very excited about this effort. We have a lot of projects that I think we're excited to potentially submit to this effort. But I did have one question, kind of just to get a temperature check from Carbon Trust, to see if it's one we'd like to submit. If Google has a solution that provides basically an analogous service to, let's say, a competitor product, or what the customer could deliver on their own without the help of a third party, but we do it with a lower carbon footprint. So equivalent service, lower carbon footprint, and we get people to switch from competitor products to our own. Would the carbon savings associated from switching from a competitor product to ours at a lower carbon per unit of service delivered count as a reduction technology, or is that kind of outside the bounds of how you're envisioning applying the net carbon standard?
Do you know what, hi Stuart again. I'm going to take that one offline and discuss internally before I make a decision today.
Okay.
Because we want to demonstrate
also...
ICT, so we're not necessarily trying to demonstrate competitiveness against others. So we're trying to uplift ICT as a whole. So let me take that offline.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love
we can
discuss offline. We're also discussing that internally as well. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Is that okay, Stuart, with you?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I'd love to hear more.
Right. Irene?
Hi, everyone. I'm Irene from IEEE Standards Association. We're a supporting partner. And my question would be, what would be the expectations in the second phase of this project and initiative from the supporting partners? How could we best help you?
Elias, I will hand over this one to you.
Hello, Irene. The supporting partners, maybe I wasn't clear, are as well partners. So members and supporting partners, you are part of it. So you have the preference in your submission to find your clients or your chapter members to submit data. Okay, so we expect first that you help us to identify and help us to get data for this phase. But there are other 3 things that we will not talk about that the coalition will do. And that deals with the repository, that deals with the development of tools to help others based on the calculated cases to develop their own case. So there you come in to also help the other cases, plus working with your standards and bodies like World Business Council and ITU and you to align that any other development that deals with ICT for avoided emissions aligns so we don't create confusion in the market. Okay.
Thank you.
Eugenio from DCS. Go ahead. Eugenio. We cannot hear you. Well, moving on. Angelos Mavridis. Angelos, are you there? Nothing coming. And I have another question from Ki Shu Guang. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. Good evening from Beijing. And I'm Qi Shu Guang from China Academy of ICT and working in ITU. Just based on the previous discussion, I would like to know how you can calculate the avoided emission, or how to say, from ICT solution. Is that based on some, for example, recommendation or standard from ITU, and what I know is also some other organization, or you have your own methodology to calculate this avoided emission or enabled by ICT solution? Thank you.
So Felix, would you like to reply to this one, or Elias?
Of course.
Elias, go ahead.
Yeah, happy to. So the EGDC methodology is fully aligned with the ITU. So the result that would come out from the either methodology would be the same. So we worked in phase 1 to make them fully aligned. So we would use the EGDC methodology, but you could equally get the same result with ITU.
Okay, just to complete the answer, we have, and everybody that actually knows about the ITU work, this was done in parallel, but we at the end have combined forces. We ensure that there is a complementarity, and we will go in depth to make sure that the people, when they use our methodology, that is a little bit richer in terms of sectoral guidance. There is an echo. Somebody has microphone open. That they will be fully aligned with ITU. So the compliance with ITU standard is assured using our methodology. Our methodology goes beyond giving much more detail and guidance also how to apply it. There are other emerging things that are based on ITU, that is the AIoTI, which is basically the same thing. There are just semantic differences, what we call what, okay? And there is one bigger World Business Council, and there was a written question on this, methodology on avoided emissions that does not cover ICT. It's not ICT specific, and we work with them to make sure that we are compatible, so that if you choose WBC for IT, they will lead you to us, okay? So we're trying to, one of the big things of the phase 2 is to align and to create kind of a uniform ICT for avoided emissions framework.
Very good. Thank you, Elias. So Shu Wang, the best methodology is EGDC moving forward. Arjun, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. The question is there a standard format given by some standardization body or by EGDC, how to transfer the collected data for calculation to Carbon Trust? Or it's just for free, written on paper, on Excel sheet, or specific format required?
Felix?
I can take that one. Yeah, it's no specific format because there'll be lots of different data types and bits of information. So we'll just work with Excel and work with you to get the best structure.
Okay, thank you.
Arjun?
Yeah. So a simple question. I saw in the chat that it said that 23rd of May is the date for submission. But there was also something in the timeline that mentioned a webinar for onboarding, which, is it that you need to submit and then your submission, based on whether it's selected, then you attend the webinar for the onboarding? I'm just a little bit of clarity there. And just as a follow-up to that, we're a startup. Is there any way, for example, and we have a solution, is there any way that we would be able to get the help of the EGDC to be able to connect to more partners, to be able to collect more data related to the solution?
Felix?
Yeah, so following this, we'd invite everyone to register their interest for partaking in a case study at any point during the project by the 23rd of May. So even if it's going to be in sometime in the future, we'll have our onboarding webinar on the 5th of June. For those in the first wave, you're also welcome to attend if you're later on. But yeah, that's when we'll go more into the details of the submission process.
Very good. So thank you so much. Stuart, very, very last question.
Super last question. That acknowledgement by May 23rd, I believe, is that including a list and breakdown of all the planned submissions that we have, or is that just a statement of intent that you need by that date?
This is a statement of intent. We'll ask you for a high-level description of the solution, but it doesn't have to be a complete list. We can develop that later.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it was, a set of very good questions. I hope it helped to clarify what is the second phase is about. And of course, you can reach out to the Secretariat anytime with any additional questions you have the contact. So moving on, Andreas, to the final part about the work streams, handing over to Carbon Trust and PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yes, thank you, Luis, and good morning, afternoon, and evening again, everyone. Indeed, as part of the new deployment phase of the AGDC, we won't only be looking at applying the net carbon methodology, but also at how to facilitate the financing of green digital solution. Financing complex solution is not always easy and straightforward, and can be even more complex from a point of view of front officer, maybe, who might not be an ICT technical expert. For this reason, during this new phase of the Green Digital Coalition, we'll be looking at to engage and work with financial institutions to design and develop eligibility criteria that are aligned with the AGDC methodology, and therefore also with the European taxonomy. So we're looking for commercial banks, national development banks, as well as multilateral lenders to come up together with eligibility criteria that front officer will be able to use to assess whether a provider or user of a digital solution that is seeking financing can be reported as green and therefore can be reported as such in the taxonomy reporting. So we want to work with both banks that already have some form of eligibility criteria for digital solution, as well as with banks that don't have such criteria. If you look in the slide, you can see a sort of like a timeline. So looking from a journey point of view, in the coming months, we'll be looking to engage with interested financial institutions. We're more or less aiming to work with 5. More or less, and have bilateral call with them to better explain what we are interested in, what we want to do, what would be expected from them, and what they expect from us, and what's in for them. Since each bank has their own criteria and very different internal processes, this would be a very much tailored approach and process that will be specific for each individual bank. And of course, if there are some sensitivities, we can also maybe sign NDAs to facilitate collaboration. Over then, in the second part, in the second phase, we'll ask institutions to share with us either their existing eligibility criteria, so to start analyzing to what extent they are aligned with the methodology, or a sort of like extract from their portfolio to understand which sectors and which type of solutions they usually finance. One point that I would like to stress here is that what we really want to come up with is something that works for financial institutions, is something that is useful and has utility for financial institutions. We're not looking to create a 100-page report that everyone says is great and then stays in the drawer, but we're really interested in designing eligibility criteria that a financial institution can easily understand and use to finance green digital solutions. Yeah, and then the last month and the last phase will be to test and further refine the criteria with some use cases. So as I mentioned, this whole process is meant to be interactive, quite interactive. And we want financial institutions to be interested, to be involved, but also to don't see this as a burden, but rather as an opportunity, as an added value for them. And there will be further communication on this also on through different channels. But if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me directly or to the contact email presented in the last slide that will be shared later on. And I think I will hand over to Alex now.
It's myself.
Absolutely.
So very briefly, as we're short on time, we'll also be looking at updating the methodology. And so we're calling for anybody who's interested in supporting the methodology update to let us know, follow up by email. The work here is designed to simplify the existing guidelines that were made at phase 1 and to support the reduction of the data collection burden and ease the understanding and the practical application of the methodology. So I'm not going to go through this slide because we're short on time. but you can review this. This will show you the high-level requirements of what we needed to support, but ultimately it's getting your input and feedback on how the methodology should improve.
Next slide. So next steps, handing over to Andreas.
Thank you very much, Luis. So as next steps, as has already been mentioned a few times, we're going to ask you to express your interest by the 23rd of May. There is an online form we will be sharing with you very shortly, at latest early next week, where you can submit your interest. The information that will be requested in this form really will take about 1 minute. It's simply the name of your organization, contact details, and then saying if you have interest in submitting a solution, and optional to provide a little bit of details on that submission as well. Further down the line, however, we would like to call out that once interest has been registered, we will be reaching out to you to have further discussions and next steps. There will be a technical webinar on the 5th of June for those who have expressed interest in submitting a solution to go further in again on what that looks like. And in here you can see as well what some of the things we will be asking you for are from that higher submission. But for now, all we're simply requesting is by the 23rd of May, if you can just submit your interest, even if it's not at a stage where it's going to be ready right now, but just put your hand up and say you're ready. And then I think we had a Q&A planned here. I know we've had a lot of questions already come through, and we are at the end of time, but perhaps there are a couple of more questions we can give time to if anyone wants to stay over.
Andrea, if I may add, just to add clarification, we didn't talk about it, but more I think about it now is that 23rd of May, we need as soon as possible your intent so we know and we plan the work. But I must say that this will not be the only chance. So if you have not registered by 23rd of May, you are not forever out. So we will have if not yearly, periodic calls for new intentions, okay? Because I know that by 23rd of May, we will not get the 200 solutions from which we will select the top 50. So there will be another chance, but it's really important that if you are planning to do it, put the intent. It doesn't commit you that you have to give the data, because you don't even know until you hear us on the 5th of June telling you what kind of data is needed. You don't even actually know if you have it or not, but the intent is okay to submit. There is no other commitment.
Very good. Thank you, Elias. Next slide, Andreas.
Of course. So if there's no further questions, then that was the final slide. What you have here is a QR code to the form that we were referring to. So if you want to, you can use this to immediately go on the form and express your interest. As I mentioned, we will also be following up with the slides, with this information. And then if you do submit interest, we will also be giving you a supporting document that explains a little bit further about the submission process and what to sort of expect. And then there will be the event on the 5th of June.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we went through all the issues that we wanted to discuss. Ending almost right on time, within the hour. I would like to thank Elias, Andreas, Felix, Giovanni, all the team behind the organization of this webinar. I hope it was fruitful, and please reach out to us. You have the email address, the secretariat at Green Digital Coalition, for any questions that you might have, and we count on you to make this project a very successful project at the end. So thank you so much, and wishing all of you a very good day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.